Chris, from the UK to the White House, condolences and words of remembrance are pouring in after Buckingham Palace announced the Queen's passing just a few hours ago. She died at her castle in Scotland after doctors said they had become concerned about her health. Shockwaves sent across the world after the passing of the longest reigning monarch in British history. On Thursday, the death of Queen Elizabeth II was announced by Buckingham Palace, this following news that the Queen was under medical supervision. According to the palace, her 4 children were by her side in Scotland when the announcement was made. Hours later, Prince Harry joined the royal family in Scotland in the wake of his grandmother's death. Meanwhile, dozens of onlookers, tourists, and well-wishers of Queen Elizabeth II gathered outside Buckingham Palace to pay their respects.
Because she's our queen. Always will be.
Here in the U.S., political leaders also reacting to the news. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden releasing an official statement that reads in part, quote, "Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was more than a monarch. She defined an era. In a world of constant change, she was a steadying presence and a source of comfort and pride for generations of Britons, including many who have never known their country without her. An enduring admiration for Queen Elizabeth II united people across the Commonwealth. The 7 decades of her history-making reign bore witness to an age of unprecedented human advancement and the forward march of human dignity." Representative Richard Neal also commenting on the Queen's death on Twitter, writing, quote, "Queen Elizabeth II will be remembered for her life of service, dedication to her country, and commitment to peace. The world has lost a historic leader. May Her Majesty rest in peace." And upon Queen Elizabeth's death, her son Charles became king. He is expected to address the public tomorrow. As monarch, the Queen is automatically granted a publicly funded state funeral. Details for that funeral are expected to be released by the palace soon. Reporting live, Paris Dunford for Western Mass News.
Paris, thank you for that live report. And after Queen Elizabeth II's death, Charles released a statement which reads, "The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of greatest sadness for me and all members of my family. During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held. We mourn profoundly the passing of cherished sovereign and much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms, and the Commonwealth by countless people around the world."